Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is just 2 minutes to midnight on New Year's Eve, Tuesday, December the 31st, 2024. I'm Peter Alexievich, coming to you live at 5 from Kyiv, this major European capital, currently under siege by the hordes of Mordor. And I'm just looking here. Let me see, I should have found this before I got on. Here we go. Live countdown to 2025 for the Eastern European time zone, which is where I am. How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody drunk yet? So New Year's Eve for me starts in 27 seconds. Michael's still sober. Hey, Cheyenne. Hey, Renee Herman. You ready for the countdown? We got 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You happy New Year, everybody. I'm now speaking to you officially from 2025. I am the ghost of Christmas future. Ireland and the UK are 2 years behind, or 2 hours behind. Yes, it's true. It is now midnight in Kyiv. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope for everybody that you have a bright and happy and healthy 2025. For you in Belgium, Flip, you got an hour to go. For our friends in the UK, they got 2 hours to go. And for our friends in New York, you've got 7 hours left to do whatever business you have left to do in 2024. Clean the house, make your bed, put fresh sheets on. There you go, Walter. There's a plan. Hey, Sarah. How you doing? Hey, Renee Herman. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, live at 5 from Kyiv. I'm Peter Alexievich, and we have some things to talk about. Now, look, here's the first thing I want to say. I am hopelessly biased and optimistic about Ukraine's future. And when I indulge myself in my hopeful optimism for Ukraine's future, no one should take it seriously, right? It's just me hoping for the best. Like, it doesn't matter that the Kherson battalion commander and deputy chief of staff were just taken out in a HIMARS strike. It doesn't matter that the same thing happened to the Zaporizhia forces. It doesn't matter that the long-awaited drawdown of troops from the Donbass to go to Kursk, because Kursk is failing, and the Ukrainians are actually reclaiming ground now. They're on the move forward in Kursk now. It doesn't matter that the 34th Motorized Rifle Regiment that had been in Donetsk was shipped to Kursk. It doesn't matter that when they got there, the train they were on and the train station in Lvov was hit by 8 HIMARS in a fiery hell that destroyed the train station and made the living envy the dead. None of that matters. It doesn't matter that the chiefs that they were supposed to report to, the HQ in Kursk was leveled, and the It was a complete decapitation strike of the 810th Marine Division in Kursk. None of that matters. The Ukrainians are under pressure. There is not going to be a magical offensive this New Year's. They're not going to move forward. That's not going to happen. That's the fever dream of naive, foolish Americans who think too much and give the Ukrainians too much credit. They are not suddenly going to be in possession of hundreds of thousands of artillery shells that after 3 years of fighting, where the Russians were able to outshoot the Ukrainians 10-1, then 8-1, then 7-1, then 5-1, 3-1, and now 1-1.5. All this time, the Russians have been outshooting the Ukrainians by a factor of almost 10 artillery shells to 1. It doesn't matter that now that they're down to almost 1-1 after the Russians, with their lack of sophistication, lack of precision, have simply leveled everything in front of them for the last 3 years. While the Ukrainians had to be precise. They had to make each hit count. It's not like suddenly they're going to be in possession of hundreds of thousands of shells and they'll suddenly be able to start outshooting the Russians with their precision, honed by the pressure of battle for years. They're not going to suddenly be able to outshoot them 3-1, 4-1. The Russians aren't suddenly going to start getting battered tomorrow. Oh, wait. The Ukrainians are in possession of hundreds of thousands of new shells that the DoD just transferred to them? Interesting. It does not matter that the Russian mill bloggers are talking about an offensive at the Kursk-Belgorod juncture. That Romanov, the Russian mill blogger, is reporting that according to Russian intelligence, 20,000 Ukrainian troops are gathered at the border there looking to make an incursion into Belgorod within the next week. Now, it's a Russian source. Nobody should believe them. So none of this stuff matters. The front is going to stay basically frozen for the foreseeable future. It's going to be a tough, long slog of a winter. And by all accounts, the Russians will continue to make some progress in the Donbass and along the front in Ukraine. Now, I would point out to you that all of their advances together equal less than 0.2% of the territory of Ukraine. They still control for 10 years of war. They control less than 19% of this country with every advantage. And it doesn't matter that the strategic storehouses of weapons are now empty. And Putin is firing everything he can anyway because he thinks he only has to do it until January 20th. And then after January 20th, it doesn't matter if the store yards and the stockpiles have been exhausted because his white knight is on the way, right? So none of that matters. It's going to be very interesting the next 30, 60 days to see what does matter and what happens. Because I cannot help thinking. I cannot help it, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure we're all going to be disappointed by this. It's not going to happen this way. But I cannot help thinking that with all those shells, if the Russians suddenly start getting outshelled 3-1, with the precision that the Ukrainians, with their drone coordination, their eyes in the sky, can bring to the fight, if suddenly the shells are dropping 3-1 on the Russians instead of the other way around, how long can those frayed nerves hold their ground? When they're not eating, when they don't have clean water, when it's fucking freezing and wet and cold and miserable. 20,000, Lars, almost 21,000. Now, according to Ukrainian intelligence, the Russians are going to end the year with losses around 790,000. 790,000. So somewhere in the next, week and a half, it's going to be over 800,000 for the Russians. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So it is, isn't it, Trav? It's upsetting. I agree. It's a lot of people. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Nothing to be done. All right, so let's take a look here. Last night, we saw the Russians send 40 drones. 40 of them were taken out. Right, 100% interception rate. Great job. Not as great with the missiles. All the Iskanders got through. They shot down 5 of the KH-5969 variants, but 1 got through. Curiously enough, the Kinzhal, the vaunted hypersonic missile, the uninterceptable hypersonic missile of the Russian Federation, that got taken out. Patriots, baby. Patriots. So of the 22 missiles that were sent last night, only 5 were intercepted. The other 17 hit their targets, including residential buildings, residential infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, and power plants. Now, we were lucky here in Kyiv. The missiles here were taken out. I was awakened early this morning with what was clearly the interception of a large missile. And we didn't suffer any power outages, but that is not the case in the rest of the country. The rest of the country is some of the rest of the country is ushering New Year's Eve in with no power, still, as they work to get the power back on. You need an Iron Dome. No, we don't. That's an incredibly ignorant thing to say, because it means you don't know anything at all about the Iron Dome. I mean, Iron Dome is designed to intercept short-range missiles. That's not the threat here in Ukraine. Further, it's made for a very small area, an area that could fit into the Kyiv Oblast. This country is nearly the size of Texas. The Iron Dome system is not what this country needs. That's just a dumb thing to say. Let's see. Now, Lvov last night. This is important. They're finally moving soldiers from the Donbass to Kursk, because the North Koreans are a complete failure, right? We think that so far the North Koreans have already lost 40% of the men. So 4,000 North Koreans are likely off the field already of the 11,000 that were sent in, nearly 40%. The 34th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade was pulled from Donetsk and sent to Kursk to try to backfill the North Korean losses. Upon arriving at the train station in Lvov, the troop concentration of several hundred men was hit with 8 Storm Shadow missiles. We believe 8 Storm Shadow missiles. Destroyed the train station in Lvov, which is a key logistics hub for the Russian efforts in Kursk. And it's reported that many of the soldiers arriving on that train were unalived at that time. It's a huge strategic hit. At the same time, HIMARS struck the headquarters of the 810th Marine Brigade that was supposed to be receiving those troop replacements. There seems to be a concerted effort to decapitate the command and control of the Russian Federation forces in Ukraine. We saw the chief of staff for both the 135th and the 127th battalions in Zaporizhia and Kherson, respectively, eliminated, as well as the battalion commanders. There is, as well as that bunch of North Korean generals and Russian officers in Luhansk about 2 weeks ago. It looks as though the Ukrainians are very selectively targeting the command and control. Now, of course, taking out command and control is critical, but it's particularly critical if you're about to launch an offensive. Everybody's in disarray as it is. If you can create some problem for the front line, having recently eliminated everybody who knew what the fuck they were doing, is a great advantage. Now, look, I don't know that an offensive is coming. All of the analysts that I listen to say it's not possible. Ukraine doesn't have the men. Ukraine doesn't have the armaments. But you know what they have? They have the will. They have the will. And it is possible that as Biden's time is ticking out and he's pushing all the surge of weapons to the front, it's possible that they might see a way. It's a gamble. There's no doubt about it. You use up 100 days worth of shells in 30 days. That's a gamble. But think of the psychological effect on the people, on those front lines. Weibo saying they will push soon, I bet. They're making headway. In Kursk, they're making headway. On the western edge, they've reclaimed 2 towns. And in Marivka, they're pushing into Marivka. The Ukrainians are. So there's advances being made in Kursk. Now, we know that right now, just moments ago, the Ukrainians shut off the gas transit pipeline through Ukraine. There's no more Russian gas flowing to Europe through Ukraine as of just moments ago. And of course, the Ukrainians are in control of the station in Sudza, where that pipeline is. So it is shut down now. It looks as though the Ukrainians are bound and determined to stop oil going to Europe as well. Last night, the Russians are saying it was Peklo missiles, Hellfire missiles, domestically produced here by the Ukrainians. These Peklo missiles hit a transfer station of the Druzhba pipeline, which goes through Bryansk up into Belarus and on to Poland, Germany, Austria, Hungary, etc. They hit that pipeline. We don't know the extent of the damage, but the transfer station building is destroyed. Now, was it Peklo missiles? We don't know. That's what the Russians are reporting. There's certainly a lot of damage to it. Now, the Peklo is supposed to be a long-range missile. Has a capacity, if I'm not mistaken, of 700 miles. Or, I'm sorry, 700 kilometers. 700 kilometers. And the Druzhba pipeline interchange is only maybe 50 miles, about 75 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. So there'd be no reason to use a long-range missile like that there, except these things pack a wallop, 100 pounds, 55 kilograms of explosives per missile. Additionally, because they're a cruise missile type, it's possible that they might be easy to intercept. And so a close target, you're more likely to have success, even if it's Russian air defense that you're up against. So I think that the target was, if in fact they were Peklo missiles, I think the target does make sense. It's close. You're almost sure to hit it. You're almost sure not to be fully intercepted if you send a bunch. And it's a critical infrastructure target that you want to be successful in hitting, which apparently they were. So it's possible that as of right now, no more Russian gas, pipeline gas, and no more natural gas. I'm sorry, no more pipeline oil nor pipeline gas are flowing into Europe from Russia. Russia on fire. Smolensk oil depot got hit again. This time at least 2 tanks are burning, and that fire is said to be spreading. On the subject of the Ukrainians making forward movement in unexpected places, in Chasiv Yar, the Ukrainians have pushed the Russians back across the canal again and retaken some positions on the other side of the canal. So there's some forward movement in a place where the Ukrainians haven't had forward movement, only backward movement for over a year, at least. Also, up around Tierney, we saw an armored column absolutely destroyed. 2 tanks and a bunch of armored BMPs. No ground taken by the Russians. Pokrovsk, there's a big push on to get to Pokrovsk. Do you know what the original deadline for taking Pokrovsk was? The original Russian command deadline for taking Pokrovsk was December 31st, 2023. They are now officially 1 year behind schedule. 1 year and about 100,000 men, I would say. Sea drones pulled a surprise attack on Sevastopol harbor last night. Fires were reported, explosions in the area. What was the target? That is unknown. Now, there's hardly any ships left there. If I'm not mistaken, there's only 2 Rapucha-class landing ships that are there under repair. They've been previously damaged. Now, it's possible the Ukrainians waited for them to be repaired and then hit them. I love when the Ukrainians do that. When they let the Russians repair something, and then as soon as it's done, they blow it up. It's really my favorite thing that there is. The last bit of news that I'm going to cover tonight is that on this New Year's Eve, woohoo! Happy 2025, everybody. On this New Year's Eve, we are pleased to announce that there are 189 Ukrainians, POWs that have been returned from Russia and who will celebrate New Year's Eve in their homes, or at least on their home territory, out of the hands of Russia. Okay. So, guys, that's it for me on the official news. We'll go to Q&A now. Let me just take a moment and thank the sponsors of tonight's live, the board of directors, Fitz, Chris Carter, Arn, Chris Carter, Arn, Ballerina, and then my guys in San Diego, Bobby and Dan Ballard. Guys, I literally could not do this without you, and I'm very grateful for all of your help. That's true, too, of the people who support this channel. The moderators, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, Jay, and Travis. Thank you guys for all your efforts this past year. Same goes to Nightshade and Lars. Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and Lars, who has the Discord server in the Alexievich archive. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, Romans, countrymen, non-binary folks, LGBTQI plus, everybody and anybody. What would you like to know? Did I cover the helicopter shoot down? I did last night, Bobby. I don't know if you were here last night. Or no, wait, did I? Wait. No. We just got the video today. I covered it in a live about 2 weeks ago when it happened, right? But we just got the video today of the first ever, it was one of the Magura Sea Baby drones, or no, I'm sorry, Magura 5 drone, not a Sea Baby, that had been fitted with R-76 Sea Dragon rockets, taking out a Russian Mi-8 helicopter. It's unbelievable. That's the first time in the history of war that has ever happened. Thanks, John. Happy New Year to you. So, yeah, Bobby, it's extraordinary. This war is a first on so many levels. Thanks, Mad Mike. I got this sweater when I joined the Planetary Society. Bill Nye sent it to me. And the great thing about every world you see here is that they are all real. These are all real places that maybe someday we can visit. Do you know why they're not hitting North Korean supply trains? What makes you think they're not? This war is a proving ground. Yes, it is. I have no new info on the laser weapon, no. Who was the big Russian who flew to Washington and back to St. Petersburg a few days ago? Freedom doesn't last. That is the question we all want to know. And who did they meet with? What did they talk about? Why was it so important that he come here in person? You couldn't do it over a teleconference. You couldn't make a phone call. You had to fly here from Russia. Did you see the plane's route and how often its transponder was turned off? All these big black spots in its path. There's really something going on there. And we just don't know what it is. I would be a liar if I sat here and I said, I know what it is. I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. We just don't know. Biden and Harris, Paul. Now we don't know who they were meeting with. We don't know if only Biden met with the mystery guest and Harris was briefed or listened in on the meeting, right? Very, very cloak and dagger, we don't know what's going on. Although immediately afterward, if I'm not mistaken, I guess not immediately afterward because that's a couple days ago now, but we did get some new sanctions against Iran and Russia today, which I thought was interesting. I have not had a chance to look at the details. Brian, my dinner was, oh my gosh. Dude, I love chicken parmesan, American style chicken parmesan. I love it. I haven't had a plate of chicken parmesan in over 2 years. And I was really hankering for some chicken parmesan. And so on a live earlier today, we made some tomato sauce. And when that tomato sauce was simmering nice, I said goodbye to everybody. And then I let it simmer for 2 more hours. And then I made the chicken. I am so satisfied this evening. I'm just absolutely satisfied. Let's see here. We do know that plane went to D.C. and New York. That is about all we know. Happy New Year, Tony Takiri. What do you know about Ukraine's new missile Sapsan? So, let me see here. I think I have some notes on this from just a couple days ago because we talked about the SAPSAN just a couple days ago. And so I don't confuse it with the Peklo, the Ruta, and the Neptune. Let me just see if I can find my notes on this. I'm probably not going to be able to. Well, here's what if I remember. Oh, sorry, I really need to get a new stand. So, Richard. Here we go. The SAPSAN, small, fast cruise missile drone hybrid, just like the Peklo. It's a drone slash cruise missile hybrid. So it's got a jet engine. It's got a 700 kilometer per hour top speed. It has a 700 kilometer range with a 400. Nope, I'm sorry, I'm wrong again. I can't read my own writing. It's a 700 kilometer per hour speed, 430 miles per hour. Long range jet propelled. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 700 kilometer distance as well. The real benefit to this thing, apparently it is launched on a mobile station. So it's, you have it on the back of basically a truck. You drive it wherever you want to, you launch it from there, you shoot and scoot. But its great benefit is that it contains a proprietary GPS, which is not susceptible to normal jamming, as well as an integrated proprietary inertial navigation system. And the two work hand in hand so that if one is disabled, the other one gets it to the target. So it's supposed to be very precise with less than a 10 meter error diameter to it, something like that. It fills a strategic, it answers the question of some of the strategic targets that Ukraine is faced with trying to hit, and it fills some of that gap. Somebody had a roast chicken tonight. I love a roast chicken. Personally, I love those rotisserie chickens from the store that you buy. They're already cooked and they only cost $4.99. I love those. Happy New Year, Feisty. Happy New Year, Travis. Happy New Year, Latvia. Ukraine is now making 96% of the drones that they use on the front line. And see, Nightshade, that's the other part of my thinking about the possibility. Just let me have my fever dream for just a minute. When I think about the possibility of a winter counteroffensive by the Ukrainians, I remember that the drone coalition led by Lithuania, if I'm not mistaken, has just announced that it is ready to deliver tens of thousands of drones to Ukraine. So hundreds of thousands of rounds of artillery from the U.S., tens of thousands of drones from the drone coalition, not to mention their own ramped up production. And hundreds of armored vehicles from the U.S. Hundreds of armored vehicles when Russia is clearly running out of them. See you, V. Have a safe and happy New Year. V's with the kids, the grandkids. They are some grand kids. Yes, they are. Happy 2025, everybody. It's so nice to see everybody wishing V a happy New Year. Yeah, Richard, if you look back a couple days, I It's probably more than a couple days now, pal. I can tell you this was from Wednesday, December 18th. So if you look back at my page, back to Wednesday, September 18th, I will bet you there's a video on the Samsung and you can see it on the truck. Or if you just Google it, you should find it on the truck. Happy New Year, Dale Roberts. Costco wholesale rotisserie chicken, my man. Don't you love it? Oh, and I'll tell you, my favorite thing to do is on the way back, stop at McDonald's and get a couple of large fries. Large McDonald's French fries with rotisserie chicken. My life is complete. Oh, I like a nice fish and chips. Happy New Year, hobo. Happy New Year to you as well. Right? McDonald's fries are so good, man. They're so good. Halibut. Just for the halibut? Did you do that, Nightshade, just for the halibut? Trump will cook your McDonald's fries. Bullshit. He had to have somebody put the apron on him. Did you see the video? He didn't actually work. Thanks, Rob. Happy New Year. Halibut is the best. I like a halibut. I like a flounder. I like a fluke. I like a tuna. I like a parrotfish. I like a grouper. Cod, haddock. Both of those are good. I'm a fan of those. I made some salmon yesterday. I do not know what hoki is, Lee Akbar. What is hoki? Is that a kind of fish? That is one I do not know. Snapper, love a red snapper. Julia Child. Today, class, will be cooking all kinds of marvelous things. Cod cheeks. Just melty. Melty. Do you reckon a winter offensive is on the cards in 2025, Peter? Well, Paul, that's what I've been saying all night. I'm trying to talk myself out of it. Because I'm the only idiot that thinks such a thing is possible. So I have to be wrong. It's just my naivety, my optimism, my misplaced faith that the Ukrainians can do anything. That's all it is. There's no offensive coming. Zelensky himself has said he does not have the firepower to take back the temporarily occupied territories by force. Zelensky himself has said it. So how can there possibly be an offensive coming? I don't make New Year's resolutions, Bobby. It's hope. I have hope. Exactly. And I'm interpreting all these signs as signs that, yes, my hope is justified. But all the experts tell me I'm wrong. All the experts tell me I am wrong. I told you about my buddy Dragon from the Ukrainian Armed Forces, right? I said to him, I said, it looks like the Russians are running out of drones. It looks like they're running out of stockpiles based on how flimsy their attacks are. And he said, no, they have plenty. They have plenty. Do not think they are running out. You are wrong. And he said it just like that. And I still have it in my head that I could be right. You know, what about you, Bobby? What's your New Year's resolution? Who's got New Year's resolutions? I don't have New Year's resolutions. I feel like I'm doing the best I can as it is. The best offense is a good defense. The other way around, Fubar. Oh, well, your name is Fubar. Right? So the best defense is a good offense, if you ask me. And boy, I'd love to see the Ukrainians take 100 days worth of shells and blow them out in a month. I'd like to see the effect that had on the Russian front line. Because I'll tell you something, I don't think they could take it. I think they're that fragile. I think they're that close to breaking. I think the Russians are hanging on by their bleeding fingernails. Oh, and on the bodies, the mountain of bodies of dead North Koreans. That too. No, no champagne tonight. I didn't want to drink anything because I had the live. I never drink before the live. I often drink during it, but not before it. Partisans should go after railroads in the East. We don't know how many partisans there are in the East. Now, Herb, you know, they took out the railroad trestle on the Trans-Siberian Railway, which was an important route for all that North Korean stuff coming in. The Russians still have to travel hundreds of miles out of their way to get that North Korean equipment and men to the front because of that trestle being out. Right, Lori? We're perfect. We don't need resolutions. A Newcastle Brown Ale. You know, I'll tell you, Nightshade, I like a Newcastle Brown Ale on a hot summer day. Yes, I do. Especially out by the lake. Well, good for you, Bobby. I wish you the best of luck with that. Cheers, Hardly. Russia has limited options for east-west movement. But you know, June, remember the Ukrainian partisans put all that effort into blowing that tunnel. And the Russians had it fixed in 72 hours. Railroad is easy. It's not a hard fix. Happy New Year, Phoenix. Ugh, Mariupol. If you haven't seen, for anybody that hasn't seen 120 Days in Mariupol, you must. You absolutely must make it a point to see that. It's an extraordinarily compelling documentary. 20 Days in Mariupol. Leisure Suit Larry, I like your name. Happy New Year. I don't disagree, Lars. I feel confident that the Ukrainians are targeting their highest priority targets with the resources that they have. Right? Like we don't know what they have and what they don't have. We don't know who they have and who they don't have. And so we have to trust them that they are doing the best to make every shot count. And it certainly appears that they are. Oh, yeah, Paul. I mean, Citizen Rob, it was on YouTube in the United States. I would be surprised if it wasn't still. That's what we're talking about, Michelle, the documentary, 20 Days in Mariupol. If you're not in the U.S., I'm not sure where you can find it. I have a VPN, so I VPN in. Hey, Mrs. Toad. Ukraine needs best bang for its buck, and the only people who know what that is are the general staff of the Ukrainian armed forces. So us second guessing them does no good. Yeah, Bobby, I'm sure they are where it's appropriate. You know, they did that in Zaporizhia. They sent a... Now, see, they had to have intelligence that the train was coming because they knew that there was a fuel train coming, 42 tanker cars of fuel destined for Mariupol. And apparently what they did was they used partisans inside of Zaporizhia or drones, we don't really know, to lay some kind of mines or incendiary devices on a train track. The train the track that this fuel train was coming down. So the engine hits the incendiary device, it goes off, the train is derailed. there's a drone nearby watching, and as soon as the train is derailed, it relays the GPS coordinates of the stopped train to the HIMARS crew, who then blow the train up. All 42 cars of fuel oil, diesel, is lost. Great hit. That was in Zaporizhia maybe 10 days ago. Well, it's normal, Mrs. Toad. That's normal for people. We all think we have the best idea. And we just don't understand the circumstances that the Ukrainians are working in. Some guy tried to, well, never mind, it doesn't matter. Hey, Truthful, Happy New Year to you. All right there, Fitzy. I hope you are. I can live vicariously through you a little bit. Do I think Trump will cut off intelligence data to Ukraine? That's a very interesting question. I don't have any idea what Trump is going to do. And I think anybody who claims to know is kidding themselves. We don't know what that guy's going to do. How could anybody know what Donald Trump is going to do? He's talking about invading Greenland, Canada, and Mexico, and Panama. And I think he's serious. Totally unstable. Charlotte, I think you hit it on the head. I don't think Trump knows what he will do. DH, I don't know how. I hear a lot of people saying that. I don't know how that's going to happen, pal. Oh, I know, Charlotte. Right, the Panama Canal won't let his shadow fleet through, or any of his sanctioned vessels. Greenland is where our early warning missile radar detection systems are, as well as a wealth of mineral wealth. I'm not sure how Canada and Mexico play into Russia's desires, except to keep America busy at wars in our own neighborhood. I'll leave you where I found you, unemployed in Greenland. We don't want Canada. No, Canada, we love Canada just the way it is. I don't want to spend 25% more for my maple syrup. Maybe, Bobby. Yeah, Richard Prexis, that's a real thing. You're absolutely right. It shouldn't, DH, but nobody is making that argument. The Biden administration had 4 years to put that con man, that felon, that lying, cheating thief, that traitor to America in jail. And it failed because it didn't want to appear to be politically motivated. Fuck you, you weak cunt. Unbelievable. You should be buying Vermont maple syrup anyway. I do like a Vermont maple syrup. I'm not saying I don't. It's a funny thing. I grew up in Pennsylvania, right? I lived in Boston for a while. My ex-wife and I had a bed and breakfast in Maine, in Old Orchard Beach. And I have 3 states in the union that I have not visited. Alaska is one. Utah is another. And the last one is Vermont, of all places. Somehow, I never got to Vermont. Merrick Garland was a huge disappointment. Weak. I did see the helicopter shot down by the drone for the first time in history over the Black Sea. Happy New Year, Anthony. You know, I would love to be in the TikTok shop, but it won't accept my Ukrainian telephone number when I go to sign up for it. I keep getting these emails like, hey, join the TikTok shop, but it will not let me in. I have so many good ideas for t-shirts. Oh well. C'est la vie. Okay, guys, it's about 10 to the top of the hour. I'm starting to get tired now. It's almost one here. I just got some Happy New Year messages. That's nice. Oh, Daryl, please. It's so upsetting. Happy New Year, Mark. PT, do you make your own maple syrup? I used to make my own too. It's fun. It can be fun. I had a 55-gallon drum that I cut in half and turned into an evaporating station that we could move around the property. Yep, owls are magic. You are right about that. Oh, man, I don't know about buying or renting. I would probably rent 20 Days in Mariupol just because I can't imagine watching it again. It's so awful. I don't know how many POWs the Russians have of Ukrainians. That I don't know. The last number that I saw for Ukraine was that they had 17,000 Russian POWs in camps, and that they were building a new camp because that number had recently spiked by another 6,000. So they had to build, I guess they had the POWs build their own camp kind of a thing. And so that would put it at about 23,000. It is a lot of work it's not a lot of work. It's a daily routine, Bobby, I think is what you have to get into. I mean, unless you have hundreds and hundreds of trees and you have a lines run. You just have to get into the habit of getting up every morning, going out, emptying the buckets, making sure that the sap is kept at a stable temperature so that it doesn't start turning starchy on you and cloudy. And as long as you do that every day until you get 40 gallons of the shit together, which all depends on how many trees you got and how they're flowing, because then you're going to boil that 40 gallons down to 1 to get syrup. And that's the process that takes time. Mrs. Butterworth's, I don't even think, I mean, I think that's corn syrup, isn't it? Isn't it only like 10% maple syrup? Happy New Year, Mike, now. 2, Paul. Of the 189 POWs returned today, only 187 were technically POWs. 2 of them were civilian prisoners. You make 20 to 30 gallons of finished product a year? Holy shit, PT. I used to be happy with making a gallon for us, for our personal use a year. Geez, how many trees you got tapped? Now that's a lot of work, Bobby. 30 or 40, 20 or 30 gallons. That's a lot of work. Jeez Louise. How many trees, PT? Three-acre maple stand. Nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, it is funny how all the North Korean POWs keep dying. I'm just not certain that these North Koreans are dying. I just think that the people taking them into custody know they're never going to want to go home. And so it is easier to say that they are unalived. Yeah, a gallon of maple syrup would last us a year. It generally did. We are not Canadian. No, we're Americans. And yeah, a gallon of maple syrup would last me and my son a year. Yeah, the North Koreans don't want them back. I mean, let's be honest. The North Koreans do not expect to get them back. They do not want them back. They will be saying things to other North Koreans that will be dangerous. Take care, Lars. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Dutch Cossack. I got your note. Thank you. Happy New Year. I heard they are turning on the Chechens who are stopping them retreating. So, yeah, the Chechens act as barrier troops or blocking troops, right? They shoot anybody that tries to retreat. The North Koreans keep getting into situations where the logical thing to do is retreat. So they retreat. Then the Chechens start shooting them. So the North Koreans don't understand that they're just supposed to lie down and die, and they fight back and have unalived at least 8 Chechens. Waffles. Oh, syrup on corn fritters. I used to love making corn fritters in September when the corn would come in. Love corn fritters with a little maple syrup. French toast. French toast was big in our house. I mean, not big. You can't eat French toast often, right? It's just too, it's like dessert. So it's, maybe Sunday you'd have French toast. I mean, we were really a bacon and eggs or oatmeal and cereal kind of morning people. Yeah, people do that. I have never done that. Maple syrup and coffee. Pecan pie is too sweet. Maple syrup with eggs. Oh, Daryl. Oh. Ugh. Yuck-o. Not for me, man. I like my eggs should be savory, not sweet. I like Dutch toast. It's like French toast, but in the Netherlands. Oh, that's great. Poor. I don't know what that means. All right. So, guys, I want to thank... we never mixed eggs with pancakes. Bacon and eggs with pancakes. No. That's sweet and savory together. Not a fan. Okay. I want to thank the sponsors of these lives this week. The board of directors. Chris Carter, Ballerina, Arn, and Dark Irish Fitz. As well as my 2 guys in San Diego who I depend on for so much, Bobby and Dan Ballard. Thank you, gentlemen, for all you do. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group over on the Book of Faces. Thanks also to Lars, who has the Discord server and the Alexievich archive. I'm Peter Alexievich, and this has been the Live at 5 from Kyiv. I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I want to thank everybody for making my 2024 satisfying. It's a great, I consider it a great privilege to be in this position and to be able to offer some insight into what is the most important thing happening on Earth right now, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm deeply grateful to the Ukrainians who have welcomed me in and who are texting me Happy New Year and stuff. I really appreciate everybody. So thank you all so much. Here's to victory and a just peace in 2025. Take care, everybody. And I wish you all the best. Thanks, Nana Pam. Cheers, Benjamin. I'm with you, Turbo. Thanks, Parda. It is officially 2025 in Europe. Yes, it is. Actually, Flip, you're just about to turn, right? It's just about to be New Year's in Belgium. And then the UK is just an hour behind. Thanks, Robbo. Thanks, Riley. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, PH. Happy New Year, Flippy. Tell Lily I said Happy New Year, too. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Make it a great year. Thanks, Daryl. Happy New Year, Ian. Happy New Year, everybody.